defining your boundary. So I'm back here on the VenturaFireSafe.org webpage, and I'm going to click on this. How can I already tell if I'm in a Firewise community? So this map generally has many of the communities that we work with. It's not comprehensive. I do my best to kind of update this map when possible. It's really a visual tool so that if people are hearing about the program and want to get involved, they can go to this web page, and maybe I live right in here, and I can say, oh, wow, it looks like there are already some folks who are taking on this effort. Maybe I can see if I can get in touch. Or if I go to this web page and I see that my community maybe right here, there's nobody working on it, well, then that tells me that I can go ahead and start the effort. But the main point is how to create these basic little site boundaries. And the reason I'm doing this is because I found a pretty easy and simple way. You don't need professional cartographers. You don't need anything super fancy. But if I just go to google.com and type in My Maps. So My Maps is a little known, but pretty easy to use tool that Google offers. To my knowledge, you do need a Google or Gmail account to use it. But most folks have this in this day and age. If you don't, it might be worth looking into getting one. So this is what My Maps looks like, and it's a pretty rudimentary kind of basic mapping tool. But one of the things that I really like about My Maps is that, as a matter of fact, the building outlines and a lot of the data that can be kind of helpful in assessing your own boundary, community boundary, is pretty up to date. So I have targeted here a little community that is in Simi Valley. I'm going to zoom in way over here. This was a community that I spoke to a homeowner earlier this week, and we're going to pretend like these folks are in the development of Firewise and they're trying to define their site boundary. So let's say this homeowner was somewhere right in here. Well, from my vantage, it's a pretty clear boundary. It looks like, most everybody on this side of the street ought to be in one community. Perhaps if the HOA extends, the boundary might be a little bit bigger, but we're going to presuppose that for this Firewise community, we're really talking about all the homes on the north side of Lost Canyons Drive. So how do I create a boundary? Well, if I go up here to draw a line, I'm going to add a line or shape. It's pretty rudimentary, but it's pretty great in that I like the fact that you can see all these building outlines, so I know I'm not going to miss anyone. But I'm not going to overthink it. I'm just going to draw a little bit of a line encapsulating the community. If it's wrong, I can delete it. I can start over. And then I will share how this can be utilized for your risk assessment. Okay. So once I double click, again, if it's wrong, I will just go over here to this little line, click on it, delete it, start over. But let's call this Lakota Clarkia community. I'll save that. Maybe I will call this layer Firewise boundary. Okay. Now, if I zoom out a little bit, I can mess with all sorts of things like the color, the transparency. I'll just make this fully transparent and increase the border a little bit. One way to provide some more information to both the NFPA and CAL FIRE, who will be reviewing this information, is to make it a little satellite view. So I can just change the base map from the regular base map to satellite. That tells me a little bit more of the on-the-ground conditions, right? I can see some of the wildland adjacent open space next to their community. So that tells me a little bit more about their unique wildfire situation. And then if I just go over here to actually print this page, what I can have results in is a pretty great map, right? This tells me all that I need to know. There are much fancier ways of going about it. You can ask the Fire Safety Council for help in establishing your own Firewise boundary, but really it's going to be dependent upon the neighbors that you know, the natural boundaries, the natural topography of your area. So there will be natural kind of breaks that are recommended to be considered when establishing your boundary. But if I print this page, this is all that I really need to upload into my risk assessment, where it asks for a site boundary and a site map. And that is enough to go on to get your application process started. And if CAL FIRE or the NFPA or the Ventura County Fire Department would like to see any more information, they'll get in touch with you and say, hey, I was a little confused by this, or hey, I'm having difficulties. But the beautiful thing by using my maps is that this saves automatically. So I can go back to it. I can share it with other folks. If there's other information that I'm actually looking for instance, right here, if I zoom out just a tad bit, I can see this is our water tower, presumably for some portion of this community. I can add a little marker right here to this water tower. And I might label it water supply. You can go pretty crazy with it. I don't recommend doing that or spending too much of your time, but pretty often we have encountered folks that have some difficulties in actually just kind of defining their boundary. And what I love about this tool is the fact that when I'm on the individual base map, I can see the building outline. So I can see what makes natural sense for our Firewise community versus what doesn't totally make sense. For instance, it might not make sense for this Firewise community to consider this portion of Lost Canyons Drive to be a part of it, even if it might be the same HOA. It might make better sense to do something different in this situation, but there's no real wrong way about going about this. And if we get to the point where we're a little bit further down the line, then you want some help getting the name out there, or you want other people to help become involved, well, the easiest thing to do would be to share with me that file that you just created, and I'll go ahead and plunk it down onto the map. And that way, if there are any other prospective folks in the community that are maybe seeing messaging on Firewise USA, they can see that somebody's working on it. You can just export that data here, email it over to us, and we'll get it embedded. Again, it's not a perfect map, our website, but it is the most up to date that we have at the moment, and we're continually updating it as new communities sprout up.